All right, introduce yourself, young man.
Hi, my name is Aldo.
Okay.
I visited a Honda dealership yesterday. It went pretty well.
Okay.
You know, a lot different from some of the other stories I've heard.
Let's start with the actual greeting. Let's start right at the top.
Okay, well, I walked in, I parked my car right in front of the showcase, and I walked in, and there was a number of sales.
Was it this morning or last night?
This was last night.
Okay.
There was a number of salespeople walking around. I'd say it took about 5 minutes for me to actually get greeted, though.
Okay.
But when someone finally did come up, he asked if I was being helped, and I said no, and he walked up and he gave me verbatim the welcome to.
Awesome.
You know, my name is, and you are.
Perfect.
Yeah, everything verbatim. So I was, I introduced myself, and he was very polite. The only thing he didn't do.
Well, when he.
I'll tell you in
Go
order
ahead.
what he did do, but he asked if there was anything that I was actually interested in seeing on the lot, and I said that I wanted to see the Civic Si. Now apparently, this car is extremely hard to find. It's not. The new one is not in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. We looked up in the database, and there's nowhere. So he decided to show me the Civic EX and EXL. He brought me to it, and he gave me a presentation of it. He showed me all the features, gave me the price, offered a demo, and from there I looked at the car, and he brought me back inside to have a short little talk. At this point he gave me his card, and asked me when I would be interested in taking delivery and whatnot, and he actually told me to wait 1 minute, and that he went and got his manager.
Right.
And I met with the manager as well. The manager came over, he gave me his sales card, and spoke with me for about 5 to 10 minutes, tried to help me locate, maybe a used SI, or, see what kind of features I would be interested in the other models, and
Right.
and from there, my salesperson, not the manager, went and got me a brochure, and we shook hands, and I left the dealership.
Let me remember the other day we left off at the interview process.
Yes.
And so obviously during the interview process, an important thing to note is we're finding out maybe some other type of vehicles they could be interested in too. Because at this point in time, the whole purpose behind conducting a proper interview is at what point in time were numbers actually brought into the...
After the presentation.
After the presentation.
Yeah.
Not before. So before they didn't ask you things like your current, did they ask you about your current vehicle you were driving?
Not until the end.
Not till the end?
After, yeah.
Okay, now what questions did they ask? Like what do you owe? Are you making a payment?
Yep, basically, and they asked me about the make of the car, and if I am interested in trading it in.
Now did they ask you what your current payment was?
No, they did not.
They didn't ask you what your current payment was?
No.
Did they ask you what you budgeted to spend on the new one?
Yes, they did.
Okay. But they don't know where you're at on your other vehicle.
No.
So really, how do they know at that point in time whether that's the right or wrong car? That might, in your mind, be the car you want, and sometimes we don't always get the car that we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that does happen, but you still need transportation. You'd still like to improve your driving situation.
Right.
So how do they all this time and energy was wasted, and it kind of let you go? Certainly when we want to try and sell you the vehicle you do want, but don't we have to first determine whether that's the vehicle that you're willing to pay for?
Yeah, of course.
And they didn't determine that, did they?
No, the interview, I feel it should have been right at the beginning after he agreed.
Right.
Maybe we should have sat down and talked about that.
But time out. Nobody there seemed insulting or off-putting.
No.
Actually, compared to some of the other stories we heard this morning, they were actually nice and polite and kind of a pleasurable experience.
Yeah, it was actually he was pretty helpful.
And they went through some of the steps, but they like failed in one key area. And really, a whole process can be completely shot if you don't ask even like one question. This is a very literal business. If you skip just one question, it could cost you a deal. So the one question they didn't ask you, well, number one, are you considering any other vehicles? Pre-owned, car, van, truck. They don't know at this point if you are. Maybe you are, but you'd like to have that one. So they spent all the time and energy trying to find a vehicle, and they couldn't really show you and present a vehicle that they didn't have. And as far as a demo drive, you're not going to drive a vehicle they don't have, right? So there's all this energy put into that, but then they certainly didn't ask you about what you're currently paying, pay off, and how all that computes. Because maybe at the end of the day, they go and get this vehicle, or it finally comes in, and then they ask those questions. And then it's too little too late, because now we've determined maybe that's, wow, I'm in over my head, maybe I should reconsider. Or you left there and you run into an Automax trained sales professional like here in the class, and they sell you a GMC, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, Ford, whatever, anywhere, right? Because they asked a few more questions. Can you see where the sales process is so very important to follow it to a T? Yes. Now, what would you have done different?
Well, I would have handled the interview immediately after the meet and greet.
More thorough, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Immediately after the meet and greet. Because did you remember yesterday I said what the purpose of the interview was? What was the purpose of the proper interview?
To determine, what they're looking for.
Right.
and what
To
they
put
can
them on the right
Car.
Right.
vehicle
Yeah.
and not the wrong one. Because we want to save them a lot of time and hassle.
Money.
We're pros here. So, yeah, I mean, sounds like a great experience, but, if you look at it a little further, you can see they missed a few key things. All right, so obviously you're not going to make that same mistake.
No.
And you now realize the importance of the homework assignment as well as the proper interview.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
All right, round of applause.